Sometimes just being real and being vulnerable with one another is the holiest of places that we can be in.
Gastrochurch is an experiment in intentional conversation about spiritual things over really good food. The entire evening is founded on a supposition that most of our words throughout the day are meaningless. They're about how busy we are or how bored we are or things that ultimately don't matter. And so Gastrochurch is an invitation to have a conversation about things that matter.
I was really skeptical about it at first because I was under the assumption it would be this really forced get together and it was going to feel very manufactured and fabricated, but then when I showed up I was, all the skepticism disappeared because it felt much more natural than I had expected.
I first came to gastrochurch. It was the first gastrochurch right after Hurricane Harvey. I didn't really know what I was getting myself into, but it sounded like an intentional conversation after something really devastating had happened. And I understood that had a place. So I showed up and I was amazed by the vulnerability and the courage of the people that showed up. That was a really healing experience for me, and it really drew me back again and again to gastrochurch.
Throughout the evening, we have 3 discussion questions that are thrown out, and you're invited to either run with them or ignore them. But the invitation is to spend the evening talking about something more meaningful than the weather, because we've got the rest of our lives to talk about the weather.
I think especially my first gastrochurch, I believe there were maybe 6 or 7 people at the table. The generic questions were so open enough that you didn't feel like you had to give a specific answer that was the right answer. It was, what is the honest answer? How does this relate to you?
There's been so many times where a question is asked and then I look over at him and he knows I'm saying, I really don't want to answer this question. And he's like, Rachel's turn. I guess it's forcing yourself to be vulnerable with people, but at the end of the night, it always turns out for the better.
I think it's also important because gastrochurch naturally makes people come out of their shell. You don't have to ask them 5 or 6 times, hey, how are you doing? I'm doing fine. How are you? I'm good. We don't really care about that. Come on, we all know that they're going to say they're good. So being able to sit down and ask someone a question like, how was your upbringing? And it not be awkward is really important, and I think it's special.
That's her.
Tell me how many skeletons you have in your closet.
Right.
Welcome to Gastrochurch.
The 3 rules we give at the beginning of the evening are watch your screen time, because most of us are addicted to our cell phones. And the more we're electronically connected to people who are not at the table, the less we're actually connected to the people who are at the table. And Gastrochurch is about connecting with people you're actually sitting at the table with.
At gastrochurch, it's really fundamentally important that we're kind with our hearts and courageous with our stories, wherever we're coming from.
And I think regardless of what night it's been or what table I've sat at, I feel very affirmed afterwards.
The second one is share the air, because we're there to listen as much as we're there to speak.
Day to day, we go from meeting to meeting, friend group to friend group, and the conversations surround football and the weather and just kind of superficial topics. And I remember showing up to gastrochurch one week, sitting down and having a really good conversation with my group. And it felt like I was coming up for air after having been underwater for the past couple of months.
I think there was a series of talks that were related to Job. I learned a lot about how to process suffering given that particular topic, but I would say also it's definitely therapeutic to be able to discuss pain in a context in which you're not being judged.
And the third is this: we don't fix each other. The invitation is to tell your story and to listen to others, because we believe that something extraordinary happens when we do that.
My faith has grown in a way that I didn't expect it to from becoming involved in gastrochurch. I have really struggled to find churches that I do feel like I belong, either because of my age or sexuality or whatever reason I'm feeling that day. Gastrochurch, I've never had that issue. If you attend any gastrochurch, I think it would be hard to find somebody who doesn't kind of seem like you. Someone who is brand new to faith, who is anti-faith, someone who has been in it for a long time but hasn't found the right fit, someone who's been there and done that and now is trying something new. It appeals to just about everybody.
As we move forward into the courses, the questions tend to get harder and harder. And I think that's one of the things that tells me that I'm in the right place. When I feel my stomach drop a little bit and I feel a little queasy, I know that I'm going somewhere that I need to go, and I'm not going alone. I'm really grateful that I have that community that walks with me.